Hi, everyone. It's been a little while. I hope you're all taking care of yourselves and each other. Uh, I thought I'd post a video today. The motivation is there's a record store out in Los Angeles, California, called Amoeba Records, and they have kind of a neat YouTube channel where it's called What's in My Bag, and various musicians and celebrities and entertainers who are in the store sort of walk through the items they've selected that day to purchase. And I was just out. It's a lovely day here in Milwaukee. A little colder than yesterday, but the sun was out. It was still in the high 50s. You'd have to be an absolute ass to complain about this weather. Um, and obviously being conscious still of social distancing, but the local record store that I most often frequent, Bullseye Records, had something set up where you can use this online calendar and set up a time to come in, and there would only be three people, as well as the owner on site at any given time, and that way we don't have to worry about killing each other, but can actually get out and do some browsing. I also have a few records that I got earlier that I felt like posting, but it was neat because I got to go through. He has a large used section of 50% off titles, and obviously that's not something you can have online or anything. It's really fun to dig through those stacks, and I actually found some pretty kick-ass stuff today. So, without any further ado, these are the recent acquisitions of Jason M. Cutler. The first one uh, kind of went out in left field, and I broke down and got Groovin' by the Young Rascals. Now, this is an album I've seen everywhere, and I know a lot of the songs, obviously, radio play and used in movies and things like that. According to read online, like 8 of the 11 tracks on here were singles. So this is really more of a singles collection. Um, I've seen this for years and years. This is, in my opinion, my personal estimation, the plug ugliest cover of any album released by a major label. Obviously, there are some rather crappy homemade albums in the 1980s by underground bands, but this really is. This looks like something high schoolers put out. It's not very well drawn. I don't understand the mechanics of their bodies. This cover is a violation of everything I hold dear. But it's a cool album. Uh, it's sort of they're segueing into psych on this, and so it's great pop music with a psych tinge. So I recommend it if that's your bag. Now this next one is an interesting story. All of I believe yesterday, maybe Thursday, but I think it was yesterday. David DiCarlo had posted online a picture of the Ronnie Lane Pete Townsend album, um, saying, hey Cutler, if you don't own this, you should get this, and make sure you get the original heavy press gatefold, not the crappy '80s reissue. Well, a day later, or maybe two, but I think it was only yesterday. I'm digging through the used bins, and here it is. And for the record, it is gatefold. It is the gatefold version, and I don't think it's 180 grams, but it's definitely a more solid platter than you're going to get out of an '80s reissue. I mean, you could pass light through those things; they were so thin. But I haven't listened to it yet. I certainly am a big fan of solo Pete Townsend from this time, '77. This is right when he was ramping up and did the whole string of amazing solo albums. So that will be actually my next play. The next one is the original London cast of Rocky Horror Show. You all, I'm sure, know the film Rocky Horror Picture Show. What you may not know is that it was originally a stage production, and there's a more famous, which I also have, version of it being staged at the Roxy in Los Angeles, California, by Lou Adler, who ended up becoming, was a music promoter, and he ended up being the promoter slash producer of the stage play and the musical, in the movie musical. Um, this is, if you're used to the film soundtrack, this is kind of a fun revelation because it was originally a very ramshackle production. The film has orchestration to the soundtrack. This is all of five musicians, and most of the core cast is actually was here at the very beginning. Tim Curry, O'Brien, of course. Patricia Quinn is Magenta. Columbia is Little Nell. So all the British, well, all right, Little Nell is Australian, I believe, but all the British or British-esque. Uh, Cast members were already in place, except for Charles Gray, when it first premiered, and um, it's definitely a different. The songs are a different tempo. It's a lot more rockin'. It's the fact that it's supposed to sound like 50s rock comes through much more in this. So there it is. It's a neat red platter. I kind of wish they would have spent the extra 20 cents on maybe printed up some pictures on the inner sleeve from the production, but I guess I could just Google those and look at them. That is followed by Movement, which is actually what I'm listening to right now, by New Order. This is the first album New Order recorded after the death of Ian Curtis and the dissolution of the original Joy Division. It's an interesting segue between the post-punk of Joy Division and the sort of new wave synth pop of New Order. I'm not the biggest New Order fan, but I love this. I actually love the first two, maybe three albums. They keep at it. Good on them. It's not for me, but mazel. But this is a great album. I recommend that. The next one, again, note these were 50% off. So my brother had a copy. Everybody had a copy at some point. There it is. It's get the knack. It's a goofy album, but half off. I paid what, $3 for it. Fuck it, I'll pay $3 for Get the Knack. Um, I might have a lonely, Gen X woman here in the apartment at some point. Could put that on and get her heart pumping. Um, Next one was actually the original reason I went over there. I've been hunting for this for a while. As many of you know, I am a big Nina Simone fan. Um, uh, she unfortunately recorded far too many albums for me to ever have anything like a comprehensive discography, but I'm working my way through. I think this is the seventh or eighth. I'd have to check, but this is the seventh or eighth album of hers that I own. It is To Love Somebody from 1969. It's a shift. If you're more familiar with her 60s Phillips recordings, which are as close to traditional um, jazz as you're going to hear from Nina, this is a move towards something else. She does. I'm quite fond of it because simply the fact she does a version of Suzanne, the Leonard Cohen song, and her arrangement is so out there. She completely messes with the tempo and um, does a couple of Dylan covers. Has a two-part song called Revolution. Um, this is definitely its release on um, music on vinyl. I've never had a complaint about one of theirs. It's individually numbered. I don't know where, but somewhere on here. Apparently, it's individually numbered, and I haven't pulled it out yet. But the platter itself is purple and black marble, so that's pretty fun. Now, this one for my Chicagoans out there. Um, Pastor T.L. Barrett and the Youth for Christ Choir. He was a famous, I think he's still alive, but I don't think he's that famous anymore, pastor on the South Side who was also an incredibly gifted musician. I came across this, if you have watched The Hunters on Amazon, they use a track off this, nobody knows. I'd never heard this, but when I watched The Hunters, and that track was used as an extended section of the track was used um, at the close of one of the about middle of the season episodes. Um, it's really cool because it is a very clearly a children's choir. So it's this very soulful. He's this very soulful singer, singing with 40 kids behind him. It's very odd. I recommend it. Next one, for those of you interested in the 21st century, Penelope Isles. This is their debut album from 2019. They are a British act. Um, I actually got this off of the whatchamacallit Bandcamp, but I think you can get it elsewhere. Um, Inexplicably, it comes with a poster. I, I, I guess they still do that. Good on them. It's nice to have it in there. I'm not getting it framed if there's, but the album itself is killer. It's dream pop. I first heard it on WMSE, the local kick-ass radio station. They were playing a series of live in-studio recordings from another radio station out west. And I heard this, and I'm like, oh my god, I gotta get this. And I got it, and here it is. And I don't even know if this guy is in the band. I don't know what the story is on the cover, but there you go. Now, this next one needs some explaining. Yes, I have broken down and bought a copy of Pink Floyd's The Wall. I know I am highly, highly derisive of this album. I still think, in terms of the Pink Floyd canon, I still think this is a very weak album when you put this against other Pink Floyd records. I do think it's a great album uh, if it wasn't Pink Floyd, which realistically it barely is. This and the final cut are really pushing whether you can and consider it Pink Floyd. I mean, Gilmour is definitely here, and has his moments, but this is Waters. This sounds in a lot of ways like solo Waters would, like Pros and Cons and Radio Chaos and the other ones that nobody amused to death. I don't know, the one with the monkey and the TV. But DiCarlo recently said of the Who's Tommy, which is up yonder, that it is the album he learned to listen to albums with. For me, I would have to say this is that album. I still think I would argue the concept of Tommy is a little tighter. This veers into a weird place on the last side with all the fascist rally and trial and I still don't really know what's going on. I mean, I know, but honestly, I know because of the Alan Parker film. It still has. It's such a great object, though. I gotta say, like, I'm gonna play this weekend. I don't know if I'm gonna listen to it again this year, honestly, but it's such a beautiful object. It's so just the amazing illustrations in the gatefold and the great sort of Ralph Steadman like lyric sheets. I mean, it's more an artifact than an album. But I'm gonna give it a shot. We'll see. I haven't heard it on vinyl in 40 years. Well, not 40 years, all right. Say 30 years. Lastly, and this is quite the find, Odds and Sods by the popular British rock and roll group, The Who. Um, I've had various incarnations of this. This is fun because this is actually I don't know if you can see it, it's the cutout cover where the picture, appears to be torn up and then taped back together, and there is, through the cracks, you can see what is, them live on stage in front of a massive audience. I miss that era of um, cut covers, these sort of layers to it. Um, it's got a few good tracks. Unfortunately, the best tracks on compiled tracks are actually on the CD, the bonus tracks. But um, "I'm the Face" is an amazing song. Um, I like "Glow Girl." A couple of other "Faith in Something Bigger" is pretty neat. Um, it's mostly late '60s, very early '70s Who, which in a lot of ways is probably their peak era. And it's just good to have. It's the Who. You can never have too much Who. I mean, I guess you probably maybe could if you're expanding into more recent releases, but I mean, you could never Moon era Who. You could never have enough. So that's it. Those are the records. I hope you have had a chance to get out while being careful. Try to support local businesses. I mean, I feel bad I can't support all the local record stores. Um, getting as a non-driver, getting to the ones that are down on the south side is not really practical. I don't. I'm not crazy about the idea of being on the bus for an hour with COVID such a major concern. So I've had to unfortunately focus on the store. There is also Exclusive Go. They're a chain. They're a regional chain. There's about 4 or 5 of them. So I'm a little more confident that they'll be okay. But Bullseye, even at its peak days, I've never been in there when there's more than 3 people in there. Um, and it's pretty much exclusively vinyl. Whereas like Exclusive Co has DVDs and CDs and cassettes and all that nonsense. So I can't. I feel bad. There's Rushmore and Acme down south, and Off the Beaten Path, which is I love. The records are off the beaten path, but it is off the motherfucking beaten path. But at least if I can support this store. Um, give up a little bit of time, schlep over there. You do that sort of thing often enough, they end up starting to give you discounts and things like that anyway. Um, Amazon is doing okay. I think they're going to be able to keep the lights on another quarter. I mean, I can't not use Amazon because there's a lot of other things that I need that I'm not going to, the alternative would be fucking Walmart. Um, not that Amazon's that much better, but Walmart is so, evil. Anyway, I digress. I hope you're all having a good weekend. I hope you are at least in a situation where it feels like a weekend, where it's not just simply day, day, day. There's no sort of breakdown, between the weekend and the work week. I hope you're at least afforded that in your life right now. Um, I'm here. Feel free to comment, to send me death threats, whatever it is that you kids want to do. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch my video. And R.I.P. Fred Willard. It's a bummer. He had a good run, though. But R.I.P. Fred Willard. So that's it. I love you all. Smoosh. Yada, yada, yada.